My life. Okay, good evening everyone. It's on Wednesday, 7 p.m. and back to session 3 of Timeless Principles for Financial Freedom. How many of you guys can hear me right now? Can you hear me? Just want to make sure that everything is going well. There are sometimes I keep talking and nobody's hearing me. Okay, let me change the mic. Testing here. Hi, Wendy. Okay, loud and clear. Great. So let's get started. Now, before I go into today's session, session 3, roadmap to financial freedom. Is it important to have a map right now, guys? Can you please share with me? If you think it's important to have a map, please type map. Now, for those who are typing map, I know that you are pretty old school because right now I got a GPS. Well, actually, a GPS is an electronic map. So just kidding. Anyway, I always like to crack some jokes. Before we begin session 3, let me just recap on session 1 and 2. We want to achieve true financial freedom. If you want that, please type me. And in fact, in the first session, if you have not gone through the first and second session, I would highly recommend you go back, look through them, because the first session, especially important, is to gain true financial freedom by acknowledging that everything belongs to the Almighty. And guess what? I don't know how many of you guys have already done that, but when you return everything back to God, say, God, all this is not mine, it's all your problem, throw it back to Him, you realize your money worries becomes much lesser. I do not like money worries. How many of you guys are still worried about money? Hey, by the way, let me just share with you something, okay? Very frankly speaking, I'm blessed myself by doing this session because I'm reminded every week that, okay, all my problems belong to you, God. And after Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, when it comes Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, right? I forget about all these things. We need constant reminder. How many of you guys agree that we need constant reminder? If you agree, type reminder. And how to get constant reminder is to revisit this frequently, write it down somewhere, have certain certain places. And we did have a certain transfer of deed exercise. Transfer everything back to God. After that, go and paste it on the wall somewhere. Remind yourself. Okay, great. So now, why am I doing all this? Actually, I'm doing all this because I felt a certain calling to do all this. Well, there's nothing I'm actually promoting or selling right here. But in fact, I want to be a good steward. And I think since I'm given certain amount of, I would say, social media influence, I want to be able to do my part to actually help this portion. Anyway, I'm just a vessel. Maybe an empty vessel, maybe not. But the key thing is this: true financial freedom is to acknowledge that everything belongs to God and seek first His kingdom. Remember, we talked about the inverted Maslow hierarchy. Seek for purpose first. Seek to actually live a purposeful life first, a purpose-driven life, and all these things will be added to you as well. Now, session number 2, we talk about investing. How many of you like to invest? If you like to invest, please type invest. We talk about certain key principles, and it is super important. Now, I just want to share this encounter with you guys pretty openly, and I find it quite interesting. I think this is my own personal thinking, that my popularity has gone down after I start this session. Reason being, let me explain. Now, reason being, right, I actually heard from some friends of mine. They told me that they have friends who wants to invest, and when they tell their friends about me, right, their friends actually heard of me before, and they say, no, I do not want to learn from Sean Seah. And my friend asked, why don't you want to learn from Sean? They told me this. They said, Sean, his method doesn't help me get rich quick. So because I do preach on the idea of not wanting to get rich quick, talking about steady plowing, due diligence, and also wise allocation. A lot of people don't like that. It's unpopular. But remember, the right things may be unconventional, contrarian, and maybe unpopular. But ask yourself this: whether is it something that's timeless, whether whatever you're chasing right now, whatever vehicle that you're going for right now, is it proven? Are you going to risk your financial freedom for something that's not proven? So that's why in first session, I talk about timeless principle where it's proven for thousands of years. Well, my goal is not to become popular. My goal is just to share the message. Well, but I do think, should I market in a way that it sounds like it can get rich quick? After thinking through, I don't think so. I'll just stick to what I do. And can we get rich? I do believe so. Okay, cool. So now, the next thing that I want to share is this session number 3. Today, we are going for a roadmap. Okay, guys, this roadmap is something that is based on timeless principles, biblically, and the key thing is to become a faithful steward. Now, I'll be sharing with you 5 key milestones, Okay, and if you have time, I'm going to share with you 5 key money skills. But let's dive into the milestones right now. Why milestones? And I really love this, because you see, financial freedom or becoming wealthy seems like something very huge. It seems unachievable, but when we break them down into small step-by-step method, it seems more achievable. If you agree, please type steps. Okay, steps. So these are baby steps. And by the way, I want to say that many of these milestones are inspired by a lot of people who has already done this. It is not original where I get ideas myself sitting under a tree or things like that. I read widely, and these are the key five key milestones. I think it's pretty useful. Okay, thanks. But not many people are sound. Unfortunately speaking, and some of these people, I feel pretty sad, because we do know that people who aim to get rich quick, ultimately they will go one big round and come back and say, well, let me give up getting rich quick and let's go back to the fundamentals. So let's go for it. Now, key reminder, why are we aiming for financial freedom? We got to be careful. It's not because of the love of money, because the love of money, if you are chasing after money, it is the root of all evil. And remember, no one can serve two masters. You cannot serve both God and money. Now, for those who do not know God yet, maybe I'll just replace this particular term. I hate to replace it. Some people, they use the word universe. Some people use the great higher power. I personally love to use God because, I don't use God, but I like to actually address God as God, because He is the Almighty. It's just like your father. You don't want to acknowledge your parent or your creator or someone who has been taking care of you as your parent. You say, oh, the higher power. Personally, I think it's a personal relationship. But for those who do not know God yet, I do pray that you actually get to experience God and you understand this. You cannot serve both God and money. So this is something. Yes, you can't please anyone. Okay, can't please everyone. Okay, great. Yeah. I'm going to stick to what I do. And please remind me, because I'm a human, I may forget. So thanks, Wendy will constantly remind me. I thank God for Wendy as well. So now, key question. Or maybe I want to ask you in this way. I know of some people who seek higher power, who seek God in many different forms, so that they can find a God that bless them. I want to reach out to God so that God can give me a lot of money and bless me. Or are you actually seeking God, and therefore, once you know God, you want to become faithful with your finances? The heart is pretty important, and it takes time to change. But God looks through the heart and can change our heart. So these are the things that we constantly remind ourselves, including me. I have to constantly remind myself. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the acceptable goals for becoming, I would say, wealthy. Now, wealth or money is just a tool. But when we are not careful, this tool can become a master. Just like example, the handphone is just a tool. But if you are not careful, it can become an addiction. And when it becomes an addiction, it becomes your master. Money can be an addiction. Therefore, why should we not use handphone anymore, or should we not actually make money anymore? Actually, answer is no. There are certain things we need to do. Example, provision for self and family. Pretty important. So don't come to me and say, oh, then you are Christian, don't make money. You just wait for money to drop down. Okay, it doesn't happen this way. Because in Timothy 5:8 it says, if anyone does not provide for his relative, especially member of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Okay, meaning to say, right, if you don't go and work and actually provide for a family, right, you are just saying that you don't believe in God. You deny that actually there's a need for actually providing for your family. Okay, so very important, provision. Now, second acceptable goal is inheritance. How do I know it's acceptable? Because it is in the Bible, okay? Proverbs 13:22, a good person. And when we talk about good, right, in the biblical context, it is not about how good you are, but actually having faith in these timeless principles, okay? A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children. 2 generations. Guys, think about it this way. If you are a good person, you are supposed to leave an inheritance not only for your children, but for your children's children. And in this case, okay, guys, right, I read into the rule of it. Inheritance is talking about money. It's talking about wealth. Now, can we leave good values to our children? Can we leave like good practices to our children? Answer is yes. But this verse, there's no contention, because here puts it up there. The wealth of a sinner is stored for the righteous. So the wealth will actually lose their money, and the righteous people will get it and leave it for their children's children. How many of you will love that? If you love that, please type 2. Meaning you say 2 generations at least. And this is what biblically or the timeless principles will teach us to achieve. And today, let's go and go through the roadmap and leave inheritance for our children's children. Now, sometimes I'm thinking, should I leave money for my children? I'm not too sure, but at least let's have the ability, okay? Come, let's go for it. So now, I'm going to go through 5 principles and 5 key milestones. And it will be a step by step. So the first thing we aim for, the second thing, the third thing, and up to the 5th thing. Principle number 1, prepare for unknown. Do you know what's going to happen tomorrow? Do you know what's going to happen next week? We do not know. Can y'all please type unknown? There are many things that we cannot foresee. Can God foresee? Definitely. Okay, but God is giving us the wisdom to let us know that there are things that we cannot foresee. So example, Proverbs 22:3 says this: the prudent sees danger and take refuge. But the simple means to say, or in some context, the fool keep going and pay the penalty. Now, how do we apply this? We need to understand that there are things we cannot foresee, and therefore we got to set aside certain amount of finances to prepare for this. Again, I want to really emphasize this. I've no any, I would say, aligned interest, or rather, there's nothing I'm actually pushing or selling. I'm just sharing with you this from my own perspective, okay? And one more thing is this: James 4:13-15 actually say this. Tomorrow or today we'll go into this and that. Okay, so basically it says, right, yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. Is that true? That is true. Okay, what is your life? Your mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes. So this goes to show, right, whatever that we plan ahead may not happen. Now, does that mean we do not plan? Answer is no. Later you will see certain verses telling you, yes, you are supposed to plan ahead, but also understand there are certain things you cannot foresee. So in the current context, how do we make sure that we plan for things we cannot foresee? Now, let me share with you. This is my personal opinion. Okay, you need to have insurance, and I come from my own personal experience again. Why do I say that? Because there are some things that I can never predict. Example, right now, nobody could have predicted COVID. You may have plans to go overseas this year. In fact, some of my family members, they have plans to actually go to another country to study, and all the plans were stopped. Everything was pushed back. Everything go haywire. How many of you are disrupted by COVID? If yes, please type D. D for disrupted. Okay? So now, I want to share this. The first step that I personally would suggest that you go for, remember there are 5 key milestones. The first step is to have a good insurance checkup. Find a good financial advisor to make sure you have proper insurance coverage for the unknown. For the unknown. Okay, what do I mean by insurance coverage? We do know that not all financial advisors are totally competent, but I want to say that not all of them are incompetent as well. I've met very good financial advisors, and I just share with you this. Personally, I still want to thank my friend up to today. When I graduated from the university, what happened was one of my friends, he got into the financial advisory industry. He asked me whether he can do a review for me. He did a review for me, and then he recommended certain products to insure certain things. Frankly, when I bought the insurance product, I had zero idea what I was buying. How many of you are like me as well? If you're like me, please type 0. You buy, but you don't know what is it about. I do not know what I'm buying. I say, okay, I just support you because you're my friend. Now, what happened was, some of you may know this story. I do not want to repeat this story too much because every time I tell this story, it actually hurts. It hurts. In 2012, my son, you can see this picture right here. This is in fact, this is a screenshot of my wife's Facebook photo album. My son actually got leukemia in 2012, and he had to go to the hospital. It was a 2 years fight against blood cancer. Terrible time, but financially, it was something that I was pretty covered. Now, I do not want to go into the details. Every time I tell this story, it brings me back to that point, and it is a terrible feeling, okay? I didn't really like that feeling. I learned a lot, but the key thing is this, that for this segment is this. Thank God that my friend actually had helped me covered in terms of insurance. He actually asked me to buy certain products. I didn't know what it was. It helped me in 2 areas, okay? Number one, because we were actually spending a lot of time in hospital. So when you spend time in hospital, right? For me, I wasn't working at that point in time already. I was actually an investor, but they actually do pay me, meaning to say the insurance company do pay me as I was spending time in the hospital. For some of you guys, or some people who are still having active income, if you have anything that happened to you, Chinese will say touch wood and things like that, but we will never know. We need to plan for the unknown. We need to plan for things that we don't like to happen, but sometimes they may happen. Okay, so make sure you plan and make sure if suddenly, especially the breadwinner, especially people who are working, you have no longer the ability to work for a period in time. You need to go to the hospital, either for yourself or either for someone else. At least during this period, the insurance company continue to pay you income. Okay, hospital income. Okay, this is pretty important. I never knew it is important until I needed it. So again, there's nothing I'm pushing. I'm just telling you to actually go and take a look. Now, the next thing is this. Also make sure that you cover for huge medical expenses. There are some things you can never expect. So make sure hospitalization plan, because I can tell you this, when I got my first hospital bill, it was, you'll make a guess. We were in hospital for about 2 years. The treatment took about 2 years. On, off, we go back in and out. But make a guess, the first bill I got after 2 weeks, how much is it? Can you all type in a number? The first bill I got. The first bill I got after 2 weeks later, remember we are already like very emotionally disrupted. Our son is sick. We have to struggle with a lot of emotional issues. We have to struggle with like telling our family, telling our parents. It is such a terrible thing. And when you see the hospital bill, I tell you, it's not helping. It is actually in 5 figures. I remember it was like, I think $30,000, and that's for half a month. Multiply that by 2, 60,000, multiply that by 1 year. If you are not covered, right, I can tell you it's adding more pressure to you. Okay, again, nothing that I am, okay, anyway, if let's say you are my good friend, which some of you are, go and make sure you find a good financial advisor. Ask them, am I covered for loss of income? Am I covered for any like huge medical expenses? This is something very, very important. Okay, this is your first milestone. Go and check. Can you all please type first milestone? Once you check, tick, okay, you know that if any situation happen for you or your family members, at least you don't have to worry about this portion. A huge portion of them is covered. Okay, now if you are unsure whether your financial advisor is good or you don't have a trusted financial advisor, what I'm going to do is this. Okay, this is something I actually have some financial advisors that I personally trust because I know them personally. In fact, quite a number of my friends, they go and look for these financial advisors, and after that they say that instead of buying more things, they actually sold away some of their products because some of the products are overlapped. So I will drop you a number. I'll give you guys a number for those who are in the mailing list. I'll give you guys a number. If you want to, go and check. That's what I'm saying. Okay. So you don't even need to say that you're from me because I do not get any like affiliate fee and stuff like that. Okay, cool. So this is the first milestone. Okay, understand. This one, create off your mind. Make sure that you have this. Okay, and let the professionals actually guide you. And I'll give you context that I personally trust. Okay, so this is the first milestone. Now, second milestone. First milestone, check. Make sure that you got insurance. Second milestone is to make sure you get rid of consumer debt. Consumer debt. I want to explain this very clearly, especially for some of you guys who are investors. I may offend some of you guys, but again, I'm just a messenger. Don't shoot me. Shoot. I don't know who you can shoot. Okay, but anyway, let's come back to this. Proverbs 22:7 says this. Okay, I'm just going to focus on the second portion. The borrower is the slave to the lender. Pause and think about it this way. Isn't that true? Isn't that true? Okay, but I'll go deeper into it and explain to you there are some debts we may need to get, some debts we do not need to get. Okay, now, when we talk about borrower being a slave to the lender, right? Biblically speaking, it is not a sin. It is not wrong to borrow money. But you know that once you borrow, you become a slave. How many of you, when you are young, your teacher asks you, what do you want to be when you grow up? You raise up your hand and say, I want to be a slave. Okay, if you actually do that, right, please go and see a doctor. Okay, unlikely. Okay, unlikely. So now you think about it this way. For example, if you borrow money for, let's say, your house or your car or whatever, what happens is this: every single month you go to work, you make a certain amount of salary or certain amount of income. A huge portion is used to actually pay the lender. Technically, you are working for the lender. Do you realize that? Do you realize that? Okay. Oh, what mailing list? Okay, if you check this particular post, there's a certain link, a Google form. You can actually fill in your email. I will send you the slides, send you some calculators and also some other resources. Okay, cool. Now, again, if you don't want to be a slave, try to become debt-free as soon as possible. In the context of Singapore, well, it is a little bit unlikely. So let me dive in a little bit. Okay, now, by the way, I just want to share with you, right? I want to say this, that if I'm sharing a story that sounds like you, and because you have spoken to me, right, it is not you, okay? Because many people are in this situation. You may not know, many people are in huge credit card debt. I'm not kidding you guys. Those who are not, maybe you are not. Okay, those who are, you know what I'm talking about. I did have this friend, this is quite a number of years ago. When I tell you the story, you will know which era that is. I received a phone call from this friend. He asked me to actually lend him some money, okay, about $5,000. And I asked him, what's the money for? He told me, oh, he has some emergency needs and stuff like that. But he didn't sound like he wanted to tell me what was happening. I got him and I say, come, let's go for a run, okay? I mean, this is a friend whom I run with. So I said, let's go for a run. And after running, usually you're tired, you'll become a little bit more honest. So what happens is this, after the run, we sat down at a coffee shop. I asked him exactly, why do you need the money for? He told me that he is in some credit card debts. Okay, so because he was working in a civil service, what happens is if you owe credit card company money, right, and you don't pay in time, the credit card company to a certain point in time will send a letter to your employer, meaning you say your boss will know that you owe people money. That's where it becomes a very bad impression on you, correct? So my friend is saying they're going to send a letter soon. Can you please lend me some money? And then I lend him the money. Guess what? A few weeks later, he called me again and said, Sean, I need more money. And I asked him, what happened? What happened? And the full story came out. Guess what happened? The thing is this, initially, he overspent on his credit card. And you know, credit card, they give you like 2 times, 3 times your monthly salary. Meaning to say they're giving you more money than you can spend. In other words, you are lending money that you do not have yet. You become a lender, okay? And the borrower, you become a borrower. And the lender is now your master. You become a slave. So without being able to actually pay for that credit card, right? He used another credit card to pay for this credit card, and he used another credit card to pay for this credit card to pay for this credit card. So it rose. To a certain point in time, right, he did not have enough money to pay anymore. He went to borrow money from money lenders. Again, I'm not saying money lenders are good or bad, but basically the interest rate is extremely high. And after that, what happened was this, now he owned credit card money, he owned money lender, and then he did something very creative. Okay, so again, if this story sounds like you, I'm not talking about it because a few people did that at that era. You know what they did? They went to our telco in Singapore. Singapore, there's 3 big telcos, telecommunication companies. They went to sign for the most expensive plan and get a free phone. So very interesting. I don't know whether you all seen this before. When you sign for the most expensive plan, you pay like $200 a month. They give you a free iPhone. They take the iPhone. He took the iPhone. He actually signed up for 9 plans. 9 plans. Each company he signed up for 3 plans. He took 9 phones. He sold it to second-hand store, and then he got some pool of money to try to return to the money lender. But he couldn't pay off. In the end, he lent money. He owed money to credit card companies, to money lender, to telco. By the time he came to me, wow, he was in whole lot of debt. He was in huge amount of stress. Guys, I want to share this. If you know anyone who is like that, if someone comes and borrow money from you, I just want to say something. Try to help as much as possible. But if you choose to lend money to the person, you must know that you may not get it back. So when I lend the money to him, I know that likely I will not get it back. This is the mentality. But more importantly, right, I want to say be consumer debt free. Consumer debt free meaning to say especially credit card. High interest rate. Can you all please type interest rate? When the interest rate is more than like 3, 4, 5%, right? Please avoid it. Please avoid it. So high interest rate, okay? Now, if you're borrowing for housing, right, make sure it's low interest rate and make sure it's a necessity. These 2 are very important, okay? So anyway, I'm not going to go too much into details because some of you may be in debt, some of you may not be in, but later I'll share with you one key way to get out of debt. You must be very systematic, and just by going through the plan, you will have a lot of relief. Maybe this message is not for you, but listen to this because someday, maybe someone will need this message and you can pass it on to them. So should you borrow to invest? Guys, this is my opinion. There is no guaranteed investment, but the payment of the loan is guaranteed. So yeah, some people actually like Robert Kiyosaki advocate using debt to generate more wealth. This is my opinion, okay? There's no guaranteed investment, but there's guaranteed return of loan. You have to return the loan. So are you willing to take the risk? Personally, in my opinion, I do not like to borrow to invest. Personally, okay? So there are some friends who say, oh, it's okay, I can die with massive debt and things like that. Well, strategy-wise, it is not a wrong thing to do, but understand that you are under certain amount of pressure, you are under certain amount of slavery, okay? So this is my opinion, okay, Ken? Now, I want to say this also. This is paraphrased by Warren Buffett. the greatest investor on earth. He says this, listen carefully. He says, if you are good in investing, look at this, if you are good in investing, you don't have to borrow to invest. You will be smart enough, you'll be savvy enough to learn how to leverage without borrowing. So you go and check Warren Buffett. Does he borrow to invest? Well, I mean, recently actually he did some structuring, but he doesn't borrow heavily to invest. Then he says this: if you are good, you don't have to borrow to invest. But if you are lousy, if you're not good, you better don't borrow to invest. So in other words, right, he doesn't advocate borrowing and investing. To borrow to invest. Personally, I don't do that as well. Okay, so this is my opinion. I did buy certain like properties and houses overseas and things like that. There are certain period in times they do not have rental and they go into negative cash flow. But fortunately, because I did not borrow money to invest, it is full cash. I structured deals together with people to actually invest together. We don't owe people money. Okay, so it's a little bit more, I would say, stress-free. Remember, the goal is to become financially free. Does it make sense? Can you all type free? When you want to become financially free, can you imagine becoming financially free with a lot of debt? Now, if you are savvy enough to structure it, so be it. Okay, but make sure that think of the worst case scenario. Can you all please type worst case? Think of the worst case scenario. If the investment doesn't work out, how does it affect you? Always think of that. Okay, Ken? So this is something that I want to share. I know it's not going to be popular, but this is I'm the messenger. Cool. So how to get out of that? 3 steps. Number 1, list down all of your debt. Even for those who have like housing debt, transportation debt, list them all down. Number 2, ensure the minimum amount is paid so it doesn't compound, it doesn't roll and compound. So whatever you're supposed to pay every month, make sure you know what is the number. Be very clear. Can you all please type clear? Clarity is power. If I need to actually add up together, pay at least $500 a month to make sure nothing grows, make sure you set aside $500 a month. First thing to do is to pay that $500 to make sure your debt doesn't grow. Now, step 3, if you pay after paying the minimum, right, also push yourself a bit further to actually get certain amount of money every single month and clear off the debt with the highest interest first. Queue off the debt. Some of you may have a list of debt. Some of you maybe have 1 or 2, but clear off the debt. If you are buying into like, let's say Singapore housing and stuff like that, well, this one is very low interest rate with appreciating asset. All this, I think you can take it as a forced saving. Okay, anyway, this is my opinion. So step 2, get out of debt. Consumer debt free. First one, insurance. Second one, debt. Okay, 2 steps already. Got it? Cool. Continue to ask any questions. We can actually discuss. Now, step 3. You say, Sean, sounds very boring so far. Well, wealth creating is supposed to be boring. Now, principle number 3, save for a rainy day. So this is from Proverbs. They say 4 things on earth are small but exceedingly wise. So we're asked to actually learn from the ants. Okay, I don't know how many of you love ants. If you love ants, type ants. Something wrong with you. Okay, I see ants, I feel like squashing them. But the key thing is this: there are things we can learn from. Okay, from ants. Okay, there are things we can learn from the ants. They say that they are a people not strong, yet they provide their food in the summer. Okay, in other words, they store up for winter. And winter, we do not know when it comes. Of course, for the animals, they know, correct? But the key thing is to save for a day where there's lack. When will winter come? Some people are facing winter right now. Okay, actually, most of us, worldwide, we are facing winter right now. COVID is causing a winter for businesses, for individual finances, for even the leaders and the governments. Now, those who have been saving up, for example, I'm super proud of my country, Singapore, because we have been saving up for situation like this. You may or may not agree, but we have been like giving out billions and billions of dollars because we have been saving up for situation like this. We do not need to take on more debt. We do not need to actually print more money. I'm not demeaning other countries, okay? Yeah, but I'm saying that if you have been saving, you would have actually been able to avoid all this. So your third goal is to save up for a rainy day. I'm going to go into the specifics. So this is called emergency funds or emergency funds. Okay, emergency, potato, or whatever. Okay, so anyway, so step 1, insurance. Make sure go and check. Take this off your mind. Step 2, consumer debt free. Now, you can do some of them concurrently. If you have a huge amount of rolling debt, please get rid of it immediately. There is no logical way, or you shouldn't try to get rich quick so they can pay off all your debt. Don't do that. Do it systematically. Once you have a plan, I can tell you, it is relief. The tension is relief, knowing that you're on a plan. Okay, can you all please type plan? PLAN. So I, D, then 3 is E, emergency funds of 6 months of expenses. I'm just going to give this benchmark. Some people say 3, some people say 6, 3 to 6 months. I think it's too wide range. Just go for 6 months of expenses. Whatever you need every single month, what you're going to do from now on, every single month, when you have a salary, save at least 10%. Take that 10%, throw into this fund. This fund is a fund that you cannot reach easily. Put into a fixed D. Put into some government bonds, okay? It is not going to give you a high interest rate, but it must be liquid, okay? And it must be something that is not easily for you to reach. It cannot be the point where you order GrabFood or pizza, and when pizza is coming, suddenly you can take your emergency fund and give to the pizza guy. You cannot do that, okay? Cannot. So this is called emergency fund, 6 months. Now, these 3, okay, then we will have 2 more goals, A and L. This is called an ideal roadmap. Ideal roadmap. So I want to say that the first three is for provision. Remember, I talked about provision. The Bible talks about providing for your family. This is for the current situation and also for the unknown. Make sure you get rid of these 3 things. First milestone, second milestone, third milestone. Climb step by step. Cool? So aim for it. In fact, even for like my family, we do this. We make sure that we have emergency fund, get rid of debt, we have insurance. And once you reach this stage, right, you know something. You know that if anything happens, you are able to survive for at least 6 months. Can you see that? There's a sense of relief. This is called wisdom, okay? When you plan ahead. How long does it take you to reach there? Sometimes faster than you imagine. But aim for this, okay, Ken? So let's go for it. Can you all please type ideal? IDEAL, ideal. Okay, some of you guys are from Italy. I do hope that this bless you as well. Now, the next portion, A. A is to plan ahead. Okay, what is planning ahead? Okay, A is for ahead, right? Now, the plans of the diligent lead to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. Now, when I talk about plan ahead, right, it's very simply look into your future. There will be some big ticket items. Example, maybe one big ticket item is children's education. You know that in 10 years time, in 5 years time, or in 15 years time, your children needs to go to the university. Example, tertiary education, and you need one lump sum of money. Where is the money going to appear at that point in time if you don't plan today? Plan ahead. And let's break down the plan into small bites. Now, other kind of things that you can look ahead is maybe your own retirement. Plan ahead. Maybe you want to actually buy a dream house. Plan ahead. Now, biblically speaking, is it wrong to have all these things? Well, God actually gives you the desire of your heart when you seek Him. And He tells you, He gives you the wisdom to plan ahead. And in Luke 14:28-33 says this, which of you desiring, see, talking about desire to build a tower, okay, does not first sit down. Okay, guys, sit down. Can you all please type sit down? Can you stand up and count? Actually, also can. But when we talk about sit down is take time to really count the cost. Take time to count the cost. Don't rush into big ticket items or rush into like having a dream without a plan. Don't do that. Sit down. Okay, sit down means your legs don't get tired. Okay, if you stand up, maybe after a while, tired, then you actually walk away. So anyway, the key thing is this. Otherwise, okay, he laid the foundation and then, oh no, not enough money to complete. This is called unwise. This is called silly, okay? You need to count the cost. You need to do that. So, well, later I'm going to send you guys this. Let me show you this thing called a big ticket calculator. Okay, so this is a big ticket calculator, and I'll be sending you guys this Excel spreadsheet, or I'll put a link. I'll put a link inside this particular post as well. Come back and look at the post maybe 5 minutes after the whole thing ended. Now, this is called a big ticket item. Obviously, there will be a few big ticket items in life, all right? You need to actually foresee ahead. And by the way, a very quick story is this also. Me and my wife, right, when we first met in our junior college, we think ahead. When are we going to have kids? When are we going to have a house? We think ahead. Okay, we think ahead. Wow, you're crazy, guys. How come we think ahead? I also don't know why I think ahead. But the principle of being able to think ahead, right, make us both more aligned, more congruent, and we went ahead. Okay, so what's the long-term goal? Example, kids education. Okay, and then see, this is how we do it. What is the current year? 2020. When is my kids going to university? Let me calculate. Maybe it's 2030 or 35, about 15 years time, around there. Now, so this is the years to go. If you calculate this, they will calculate it's 15 years. The next portion, how much is the amount needed in today's price? So if today, to go through like university, let's say it costs 100,000. I'm just giving a hypothetical example, okay? What you do is you key in the inflation rate as well. Inflation rate, irritating, okay, but you need to key in. So you calculate, because you may need 100,000 today, but 15 years later, you can see, if you put in 4%, it will help you calculate that it becomes 180,000. At the point in time where you need it, in 2035, you will need 180,000. Well, if you say that inflation rate is 5%, you can see that this amount grows, okay? But typically it's about 4%, I think it's about 3.5%. In terms of education, you can go and check the inflation rate. You know that 15 years later, you need this money. Where are you going to get this money from? Right now, you start today, okay? Start today. But of course, I will strongly recommend that you finish step number 3 first, which is to have the emergency goals first. Because these emergency goals can become this big ticket item amount later if you don't need this emergency amount. So you can see that right now, maybe your current funds for gold is 5,000. Your rate of return of investment, okay, if it's 15 years, you can invest. Let's say it's 4%, okay, 4%, 5%. What you need to do, this calculator will help you break down into yearly contribution. You need to contribute about 7,000 a year. Monthly contribution is about 600. Obviously, if you are not able to hit, let's say $600 a month to set aside for your children, don't be too worried as well. Don't be too worried. At least you start right now, you start to compound, you will reach to this number a bit nearer. Does it make sense? Okay, how many of you would love to have this calculator? If yes, please type me, okay? So this is the big ticket calculator, but make sure you have a plan. Now, some people don't like to look at this. Because you look at this, you realize, wow, there's so much work I need to do. But guys, 15 years will come sooner or later. I mean, it will come 15 years later, correct? It's a prediction that is going to be accurate. It will come, okay? You make sure you are prepared right now. Cool? So this is something I want to share, and I'll send you guys this calculator. Now, the next thing is this. Let's go back to the slides. So remember to count your costs. Don't jump into like certain big projects without thinking through. So this is thinking ahead, big ticket items. And finally, what does L stand for? Make a guess. What does L stand for? L, okay, yeah, this is a picture of me and my wife. We plan ahead. We have a big ticket calculator. Now the final L is actually legacy. We talk about leaving enough inheritance for the next 2 generations. Come on, man, we're gonna start doing that. And it's gonna be fun, okay? What it means is, right, when you can leave inheritance for the next 2 generations, you must be extremely wealthy. Correct? It cannot be on your deathbed from your pillow, you take out one tiny gold bar and give your children. It doesn't work this way. You have enough inheritance. So what it means is, right, it is good for us to be wealthy as well. Not to become greedy, but to plan ahead, to be prudent, and to be a good and faithful servant. So legacy, we have talked about investing in session 2. Please go back and recap this. I would strongly suggest once you have emergency funds, you start to learn how to invest. Why? Because even planning ahead, if you are able to invest wisely, okay, safely. I mean, you can talk about ETF. This is the Bible doesn't talk about ETF. So these are tools that we can use, ETF and things like that. Whatever investment tool you have, go for long term, and that's where as it grows, you can actually build a legacy. So go and recap session 2 for investing. I do hope that you have enjoyed session 2, and I do hope that you have learned something. If you learned something right now, help me click the like button, help me click the share button, so that more people can benefit from this. Now, I want to quickly go through, wrap up this session by talking about 4 key money skills. Some of you may have heard of this before because you read my books, but I want to just focus on 4 key money skills. And the next session, we will dive more into that. I want to tell you, a lot of us, we think we know the money skills, but we don't know. Okay? So, how to get the slides, right? Again, after this whole session, you can come back to this post. You can see I'll update this post with the latest link for you to download the slides. Okay? Now, the first key money skill is learning how to generate money. Meaning you say you have to work. Thessalonians, 2 Thessalonians 3:10 says this. If you are not willing to work, you don't eat. You don't eat. How many of you don't need to eat? I know some of you fast. Intermittent fasting, or you don't eat a lot. But this is say that you're not qualified to actually have any food. So you need to learn how to generate income using your skills, using your hands. and there are correct ways of generating incomes, there are wrong ways of generating incomes. A lot of us, we just go through the schooling system and then we find a job and that's it. I don't think we are supposed to go into a job that we hate. I don't think we are supposed to skive at our job. Next session, we'll talk a lot more about it, how to generate even more income. Because biblically speaking, we are supposed to learn to become more skillful. Can you all please type skillful? When we become more skillful, you actually generate more income. There are certain ways, and maybe next session, right, I also go through a certain, I would say, personality test for you to see whether are you in the right job fit. If you're in the wrong job fit, it's difficult for you to actually generate income as well. Generate great amount of wealth. Okay, cool? So now, the second money skills, the first one is, I call them 4G money skills. 4G. Second one is how to govern your money. Proverbs 27:23 says this: be sure you know the condition of your flocks. Give careful attention to your herds. Now, this is talking about your wealth, because back in those days, the shepherds, right? Okay, in fact, I've been to Finland. I don't know whether you have been to Finland, but they told us this. They say that because in Finland, people have reindeers. They say it's very rude. It's very rude for you to go and ask, let's say, an owner, hey, how much reindeers you have? Asking them how much reindeers they have is like asking them how much money they have in their bank. So this is actually talking about, when we talk about people who have flocks, like sheep, like reindeers, it's talking about your wealth. Be sure you know your condition. Do you know the condition of your wealth? Do you do checkups for your wealth? If you don't, please do. Now, some people don't want to do a checkup because you know that the report is going to look disgusting. Okay, personally, I was like that, okay? I'm not someone who likes to do a lot of checkup. I rather not know the bad news. I don't like bad news. I like good news. I like to be someone who is very happy. But if you don't know how to actually know the condition, you cannot fix it. Okay, so be very, very careful. There are ways to govern your money correctly. There are different buckets. In the next session, fourth session, I will talk about this, okay? Now, the third skill is how to grow. We talked about this already, Matthew 25:23. Good and faithful servant is people who grow your wealth, grow your talent. Again, I do not want to actually force this particular verse to say it's only for investing. It is for the skills that you are given as well, okay? And finally, it's about giving as well. It's about giving. So it says this: a generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. Well, I want to say something. Recently, I've been asked this. Okay, when we give money, right? There's ways to give correctly, and there are ways to give wrongly. Now, ever since I learned about giving, I don't like to share too much about giving, as in like I've been giving here and there, because actually, biblically speaking, right? They also say, do not, when you give, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is giving. You're not supposed to actually, okay, again, it depends on the context, depends on intention. Some people, they give and they tell people so that they can inspire more people to give. Well, God judges your heart, that's between you and God, but there's correct ways of giving and correct places to give. There was one time, okay, I just share with you one incident that I gave. At that point in time, I was still working, and I just want to share this incident because it is very funny in my opinion. I learned about giving, and I learned that, wow, I've not been giving. I've been making money, I've been saving, I've been investing. I want to grow my wealth. So when I learned about the principles of giving, right, and God actually promised us two things. He said, if you give, right, I'll open the floodgates to actually, he said, test me in this. God said, test me in this. Biblically, he said, you actually give to the kingdom of God. You see whether I'll open my floodgate and then tamba or like flood you with a lot of blessings. So I said, wow, I want to test God and see whether is it true. And then also one more thing, biblically they also say this thing. It is a mystery that people who give will gain more. People who actually hoard, right, they hoard onto their wealth, they lose it. It's very interesting. So what I did was, right, that month, I actually got a bonus for my work. I work in the military. So it was a year-end bonus, and I calculated, well, about 10%, right? Actually, I got a couple of thousands of bonuses. So I withdraw money from the cash, and I just took the cash and I said, where do I give to? Where do I give to? And I was hungry. I went to KFC to eat. And then I was queuing up, right? I saw that KFC, there's a donation box. I think it was a children's foundation. It was very funny. So I took the money, right? I tried to put inside the box. And then, because it was a stack of cash, I tried to put inside the box and it got stuck, It got stuck. So after a while, right, the money was stuck outside the box, like flipping out there. And then I tried to push in. It couldn't go in, so I tried to pull out. And after a while, right, the employees there came and said, hey, what are you doing? Are you trying to steal money from our donation box? And it was quite an embarrassing time. But I told them, no, I want to donate money. And they look at me, very, very suspicious because I was holding a stack of money. So in the end, I just quickly pushed in, right? The box actually cracked. I pushed the money in, I ran away. But it was something quite interesting, but I can share with you. Interestingly, right, when I walk out from that place, right, I felt a certain amount of joy. By right, you lost money, correct? You lose money, you're supposed to feel a certain sense of loss. I don't feel a sense of loss. I feel a certain sense of joy, a certain sense of assurance. And that's where I want to actually share with you guys, right? Before I wrap up, right? Something that is very, very, I would say, touch me today. Okay. There's also before I go to the last story portion, right? I want to say that there's a difference between planning and worrying. Because a lot of people tell me this. They say, hey, Bible says that don't worry about tomorrow, you know. Now, don't worry versus don't plan is different. Do you know what's the difference between planning and worrying? You plan, that's why you don't worry. Does it make sense? Okay, obviously, some people after they plan, they still continue to worry. That means that there's a certain lack of faith. Yes, giving is very powerful. It's very powerful. Give with a correct heart. God loves a cheerful giver. And when you give, right, well, biblically speaking, they also say when you give in the open, when people know that you are giving already, you already got your reward. You will not get additional reward. So think about this now. There are some things to discuss next week. Now, I want to say that planning and worrying is different things. So now let me go back to the key principles again. Again, insurance, debt-free, emergency funds, advanced goal, and legacy. You'll get this set of slides and go and aim. Let's aim to achieve them, okay? Bit by bit, tick, 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 tick. By the time you know you have enough inheritance, right? Good game already now. There's nothing. You have been a good and faithful servant. Now, I want to go to this morning's daily bread because I find it very powerful. It's one of my favorite stories, guys. It's about a story about this guy called George Miller. I will show you his name in a moment's time. But this is today's daily bread. I love this website. It talks about this. So there was food every day for Elijah and for the woman and the family. Now, I do not know, but I just feel that maybe some of you right now, you need this particular message. Because when I talk about the 5 steps, right, well, it is talking about people who have certain amount of income, you have consistent income. That's where you can even buy insurance, you can get debt-free and things like that. But what if right now you're in a very difficult situation? I do not know. Maybe some of your friends are in a very difficult situation. I think that this particular additional bonus message may be for you. Okay, I want to share with you this story about this guy called George Miller. He's no longer around, but if you buy a book talking about his biology, right, you will get very inspired by the amount of faith he has. Now, he actually started an orphanage in 1836, and during that point in time, right, I want to say that he did not want to take out any loan to build buildings for orphans. He has a certain desire in his heart. He felt that God was telling him that, go and do my works, go and help the children. So he went ahead and then he started with adopting 30 little girls, and then he actually put them in a house and start feeding them and start teaching them. But he has zero funding. He had zero money. And when you actually read the records, right, they don't even have food for tomorrow. The next day, there's no food. So he and his wife is called Mary, he said, let's pray for breakfast. Let's pray for breakfast. They will sit around and they say, okay, God, thank you for the food that you will provide. And then the kids will be looking, what food, what provision? And after praying, right, they will hear a knock on the door and people will come and give food. The baker will say that, hey, I don't know why, I just want to give you guys food. And it happens year after year after year. People will give donation by donation by donation. In the end, he built 5 houses. Now these 5 houses and the size of the orphanage, right? Remember, he has zero funding. Zero funding is by donation, bit by bit by bit. There was no big donation. It is little bit by little bit provided for the next day. It's like the Israelites, right, when they are in the wilderness, right? Every day there's provision. Can you all please type provision? I just feel strongly that this message is for maybe someone out there, that provision will be given. Have faith, it will be given. You cannot see it, but tomorrow it will come. And George Miller, please read his story if you can. Please search on him. In the end, right, he built 5 houses, 5 buildings, right, which is worth $14 million today. In today's money, okay, with nothing. Okay, it's not about the size of the value of the money, but I want to share one particular story that I like a lot. Are you able to see this picture? Do you know what is this picture about? I want to share with you this is a very wonderful story that I like a lot. If you see this picture, it is a ship in a fog. Now, what do I mean by ship in a fog, right? It's actually talking about a ship, because it's so foggy, they cannot move. And this is a true story, and it was actually retold by the captain of the ship. It is not told by George Miller, but the captain of the ship. So let me share with you this story, right? In fact, a well-known evangelist, right? He met this captain. And then this captain of this ship, right? He said that, hey, I want to tell you about this story. And this captain is not really a Christian. He's not really a man of God. But he said that, hey, I want to tell something. Like 5 years ago, right? A few years ago, right? I had this guy on my ship, right? And this guy's name is called George Miller. Okay, remember this. George Miller is not a famous guy. But the captain of the ship said that this guy called George Miller, right? One day, we were shipping. We were actually going to Quebec. We were going to Quebec, and then there was a lot of fog. Meaning, you say, hey, cannot see anything. So by right, the ship is supposed to travel at a certain speed and reach Quebec at a certain time. But because there's fog, right, we stopped the ship. When we stopped the ship, right, because it's too dangerous, okay? We stopped. And then this guy called George Miller, right, came to me and said, Captain, I need to be at Quebec on Saturday afternoon. Okay, I need to be on Quebec on Saturday afternoon. Will we reach there in time? So the captain said, oh, I'm sorry to tell you that because, right, the fog is too heavy. Guys, maybe some of you right now, there's a fog. You cannot see what's ahead. It looks too dangerous to move ahead. Okay, so the captain said, oh, I'm so sorry. He said, Mr. George Miller, Mr. Miller, it is impossible, you know, because of the fog, right, we cannot move forward and we cannot reach Quebec by Saturday. Very likely we'll reach maybe Monday or Tuesday. Now, then the Mr. George Miller said, oh, he said, seriously, if you cannot bring me to Quebec by Saturday, right? Because on Saturday, I have a speaking engagement to tell people about God's word. And I've never broken a speaking engagement. I've never been late for 57 years. So a very old man already, George Miller. So the captain said, oh dear, but I'm really sorry. Maybe this will be the first time you will break the engagement. And George Miller said, no, it's impossible. It's impossible for me to break that engagement. If your ship cannot bring me to that place, right, maybe some other ship will come by and I'll jump on the other ship. Then the captain was laughing. He said, now because there's a fog, no ship is moving. No ship is moving. Then the captain asked, how can I help you? How can I help you? If there's somewhere I can help you, please let me know. But I'm helpless. I'm helpless. Then the George Miller, right, say this, is it okay I go to your chat room and pray? There's this chat room which is quiet. He said, I want to just pray. And then the captain said, okay, sure, whatever lah. I bring you to the chat room and pray. So they went to pray at time, right? The captain said one thing. He said, Mr. Miller, do you know how dense the fog is? Okay, listen to this. Do you know how dense the fog is? Mr. Miller, right? George Miller said this. My eye is not on the density of the fog, but on the living God who controls every circumstances of my life. I feel that this is a statement that God is telling me to just say it out because some of you may need this. So the captain said, okay, sure, whatever. George Miller went down on his knees and prayed, and he prayed a very simple prayer. Okay, so the captain said, I never heard of such a simple prayer before. So he just prayed, okay, God, please help me remove the fog in 5 minutes. That's all he said. Simple prayer. Can you all please type simple? Don't need to be very complicated. Use flowery words. He said, God, can you please help me remove this fog in 5 minutes because I know that you want me to be in Quebec on Saturday. He just prayed. And then after he finished praying, right, he stand up. The captain want to kneel down and pray. So he said, okay, I also pray together with him. Then George Miller, right, say this. George Miller, right, tap his shoulder and say, hey, you don't pray. Why? Number one, you don't even believe that God will do this, so don't pray. Number two, after I pray enough already, I don't need you to pray for me. So the captain looked at him, right, and said, okay, whatever. Then you know what happened? When they walk out of the chat room, right, the fog is gone. The fog is gone. That day, the captain's mind blew off because like within 5 minutes, the fog is gone. So some of you may be living in a foggy time. I just want to encourage you to tell you this, that don't keep your eyes on the fog. Keep your eyes on the living God that controls every circumstances. Because these two other verses says this, my God will supply all your needs according to his riches in glory by Christ Jesus. It is not your power, it is his riches, okay? And also devote yourself to prayer, being watchful and thankful. So George Miller, right, one secret to his prayer is this. He thanked God for the things that have not happened yet. You say, thank God for the food. Thank God for clearing my fog. Okay, so this is something that I just want to share with you guys, and I do hope that it actually like enriches you. Okay, so again, I want to say that this session, well, is beneficial for myself, especially. It's a good reminder for myself. In the next session, session number 4, we will go through the 4 key money skills. I do hope that this has been a blessing to any one of you guys. Again, I just want to be bold and share whatever that has come into my mind. It may not be popular, but it's timeless. It is something that will save a lot of people and also save you, and you'll get true financial freedom. So again, come back to this post in 5 minutes, because I'll rewrite the post. I will actually put the link to this particular notes. You can actually download the slides, download the calculator, and go ahead and take action. Okay, thank you so much. I'll see you guys next week on Wednesday, 7 p.m. for session number 4 for timeless principles to achieve financial freedom. Goodbye. Be blessed.